So do our mortgage interest rates. We got to the high end of this range we've been in. Kind of poked through the 450 ceiling that's been holding us down. We got as high as 460-ish. We've gone as high as 480. That's probably kind of like, whoa, that's really high.
Get ready for a new episode of KP Talks Dollars and Cents. Learn financial literacy and get real-time updates on all things housing, finance, and real estate. So let's get started. Here's your host, Kevin Perenio.
Hey, it's KP coming to you live from the New York Stock Exchange. Here we go. Let's go. All right, it's Monday night. Gotta get my video out. I'm gonna be quick, I promise. We're here at the Secondary and Cap Markets Conference that the Mortgage Banker Association puts on. And of course, we would be at the center of the universe for all of money. Let me turn. So, the New York Stock Exchange is owned by Intercontinental Exchange. I think there's like 26 or so different companies. Great group. What's up, buddy? This here. And of course, they own ICE Mortgage Technology, which a lot of us are Encompass users. So this is obviously a great event. We're on the floor. This thing is packed. It's gorgeous. Great commentary today. If you didn't already see it or read James Kleiman's article out of HousingWire, Bill Pulte, the FHFA director, spoke. Joseph Gormley, who's the acting director, deputy director of Ginnie Mae, he spoke. Some great stuff they're working on. I feel like there's some no-nonsense business leadership up there. And it's not a knock on anyone in the positions in the past. It's just, you know, when people take over a business, you know, they want to do some stuff, you know, in the beginning, right? And make a splash and make an impact. And that was talked about quite a bit today. And so what's interesting was to hear Bill Pulte say that they are moving very fast because President Trump moves very fast. And I have this saying I say all the time, we've got to move at the speed of business. So it's good to see the speed of business picking up from our regulators. And I know Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie continue to be, you know, in control of 70% of the mortgage universe. You know, with the securitization that's going on, the centralized securitization. So a lot going on. There's a lot of cost cutting going on. That was talked a lot about. You know, I don't want to get into too much of the details, but I was able to meet with in a closed door meeting at the Mortgage Banker Association. What's up, Ben? How you doing?
Good going.
There it is, founder of Simple Nexus. Let's go. Co-founder. And we were able to have a closed door meeting with Bill Pulte and Mr. Gormley. So I can't talk about it, but I was there. Your boy was there in the room. And I will tell you that there are a lot of business leaders in this industry that, thanks to the Mortgage Banker Association, have a seat at the table, make an impact, talking about things that matter to us and how we're going to get housing affordability, get the costs down for certain initiatives that are out there. So I think there's more to come. So let's talk about the flow of money since we're at the center of the universe for money. We're literally, if you guys know this, so above that roof is the Buttonwood Club, and the New York Stock Exchange was created in the late 1700s on the Buttonwood Agreement, and literally outside of a tree that used to be here. So they've been here almost as long as our country has been around. So we're coming up on our 250th anniversary of the year I turned 50, so I'm 48, so we got 2 more years to go. The flow of money, the U.S. debt was downgraded. I believe Moody's did like a slight downgrade. That's happened before when Fitch did it. It's kind of a nothing burger. It gives a little distortion and a little bit of change in rates and money and costs and yields on the 10-year Treasury, which affects mortgage interest rates. But briefly, the real problem is government spending. So our government is the biggest driver of inflation, hands down. So they are working through a budget right now. They are working through it. And what's interesting is the House Republicans kicked back the One Big Beautiful Bill last week. And so there's a little bit of, it's interesting, there's a little bit of uncertainty because that kicked back, but it got kicked back by fiscal hawks who want to cut more. So isn't that good? So the uncertainty of the budget not passing causes a little bit of distortion in rates. But if ultimately they get a bill that is a little bit leaner, not that it's going to be that much leaner, it'll bring certainty to how much money the biggest driver of businesses and of inflation is in the world, which is our government. And we won't have that certainty just yet. So let me just say that in July-ish is when we should get that certainty, because we are working on that full final budget. We run out of money in August, so we're broke. Remember, we're broke. We have to raise the debt ceiling and all that kind of stuff. So we are broke. We have to raise our debt ceiling. We're going to hit it by August, and we're not going to have enough money to do business. So we need this budget passed. We need the debt ceiling raised, and will Medicare get touched? Will benefits get touched? Big pharma companies are kind of freaking out right now because there's a lot of cost-cutting thoughts coming out of the White House, and all of this impacts how much Treasury debt are we going to issue. The supply of Treasury debt will impact the flow of money and how much money costs, and that will impact mortgage rates. So keep an eye on all that. I'll get back to you Thursday after we recap whatever's going on here the next couple days. And, we're at the high end of the 10-year Treasury yield range right now, so rates aren't in the best spot they've been. They've kind of gone up the last couple weeks, but we'll just continue to keep watching that, see what other news comes out. Obviously, inflation seems tame, so now all the worry warts about, higher inflation and everything is all about the government inflationary cause, which no one was talking about that until after the CPI came in super low and the tariff deals are getting done, or at least tracking that way. So now what do you want to worry about inflation? You got to worry about the government, which is really the big worry all along anyway. So can't win, but we will. Cheers.
Hey, it's KP coming to you live from Corona, California. Back at the desk after 17 days, and I had like 1,000 emails. I couldn't quite keep up. I apologize. Oh boy, we got a lot to talk about, so stick with me on this one. I just wasted 20 minutes cutting a video, and the audio was terrible. But we're going to try again and keep our fingers crossed. This is take two. So, we had Mortgage Innovator Conference, the California MBA, which is an advocacy group. Had that on Huntington Beach. Rolled straight into our president's cabinet in Tulum, Mexico. And then my partner, Gary Malice, and I, who is over cap markets and strategy, we rolled straight from Tulum in the new airport, which is beautiful and small and easy to get around, to Newark, and no issues there with the New Jersey Transit strike, for 4 nights in New York for the MBA's National Secondary and Cap Markets Conference, which was great. A lot of takeaways, a lot of great meetings. I got to say, my favorite thing, if you know Flavia Nunez, she works for HousingWire, and I saw her in the elevator, and I hope she doesn't mind I'm sharing this, but, we have 4 kids in our house, and so I've never had a baby, but my wife has, and so I gave Flavia some advice for her and her man, and it was basically just relax, that only your uterus muscle does the work. A lot of people get in there and they tense up, and they squeeze everything in their body. And of course, that makes the labor prolonged and difficult. You need your hubs to rub your anchors on your forearms and your neck. She told me it was the best advice. She had an easy birth. It was a great birth. And that was my favorite thing from New York. So thank you, Flavia. I hope you don't mind I shared this with everybody. Congratulations on your growing family. Happy Bitcoin Pizza Day. Today, Bitcoin hit an all-time high on the same day as 15 years ago that some dude paid 10,000 Bitcoins to order 2 pizzas just to prove the utility of Bitcoin and talk about how useful it is and see it's not just some hocus pocus thing. Today, all-time highs for Bitcoin price. Those pizzas cost him $1.15 billion. And that wasn't the only thing he bought. He spent the equivalent of just on things, pizzas and things and items, just to prove a point, $11 billion. $11 billion. So I am not a financial advisor. I am not responsible for your losses, only your profits. That dude lost big. Bitcoin, I digress. I don't need to say anything else, but let's just say it's digital gold. So what else is moving the markets? We'll get into that in a second. But before I do that, do not say Happy Memorial Day. I'm guilty of it. I do it all the time. We're rolling into an amazing weekend. It is to honor all those who have fallen, who have served in the U.S. military. So not just whether they gave their life in battle, which is, insanely, we're insanely grateful for that, our freedoms and everything in our nation. But for anyone that served that has fallen, we're remembering them this weekend. So don't say Happy Memorial Day. So say, have a great Memorial Day, or or just go pay some tribute somewhere. For those of us in Orange County, in Newport Beach, they have this thing called Castaways Park that overlooks the Intercoastal and also the Back Bay, but the dunes. And it's this cliff with all these flags for every person that's fallen around Orange County to remember them. And our colleague, Alec Hansen, who works at Loan Depot for many years, his dad, Dan, is there too. His daughter, Scarlett, just won an art contest, and her piece of art will be shown there at Castaways Park. So very cool stuff. So that holiday goes back to 1868 when an Army of the Republic general started the tradition of decorating grave sites for those that had fallen. And in 1968, I believe it became an official holiday. So let's make sure we take care of that. And on Monday, Greg, Cher, and I will be having a conversation and put it out there live for all of you to see. I'm so thankful for our friendship and that he's going to put some content together. It's like the second time I've been with him, so look out for that. Speaking of wars, are we having a domestic terrorist war? Did you see the two Israeli staffers that worked at the embassy in D.C.? It's a couple that were gunned down when they came out of events. Some guy chanting "Free Palestine." I don't want to get into the politics of all that. There was a lot of death involved in that conflict. But here on our shore, people in D.C. just walking out of a normal night. I hope we can have some cooler heads this weekend and, just keep moving forward as a country. Speaking of D.C., the biggest driver of inflation, government spending, the House passed a $3.8 trillion reconciliation package and raised the debt limit to $4 trillion, the debt ceiling. So it goes to the Senate. They kind of chop it up and beat it up and try and fine, tooth comb it and see what they can find, right? Let's see if they find anything. That's kind of a Spaceballs reference I was making there. So I think the bond market's not digging this raising of the debt ceiling. But at the same time, the Fed balance sheet has been coming down from $9 trillion to under $7 trillion. Every time we have this happen, the debt ceiling's coming, we're going to be broke, and, we'll have a government shutdown. And then, of course, magically the Fed and the Treasury, I hate to sound so sarcastic, but I've seen this so many times, like, oh, you know what, we found some more money. The government's going to, we made some maneuvers, and yeah, we're good. And then, of course, they pass it. So this X date, right? X going to give it to you. Barry and Dan and the MBS crew, they did a good job. As I went through thousands of emails and videos and content, I got to catch up on all my MBS Highway videos to do a good job of talking about this. That date is when we run out of money. So we got like $600 billion in cash. We're going through more receivables right now as well, with taxes being remitted, and so we'll run out of money this summer. I've heard late July, heard August, but this bill is trying to get passed. They stayed all night the other night at the House to get this thing hammered out. So what's interesting why this is relevant to us is because it has impacted Treasury yields, and when yields go up, so do our mortgage interest rates. We got to the high end of this range we've been in. We kind of poked through the 450 ceiling that's been holding us down. We got as high as 460-ish. We've gone as high as 480. That's probably kind of like, whoa, that's really high. We could see that, but every time yields start to go up, you start to hear these voices. We're going back to 8% mortgage rates, and we're going to have a 5% yield on the 10-year Treasury. And man, it's just like the same thing. We were worried about tariffs, and then inflation came in, super light and literally negative in April. But wait, the ships that were empty that are coming from China, they're going to disrupt the supply chain that doesn't hit till May. Well, it's almost June. It's like, man, this is the most resilient economy in the world. Our consumer is extremely resilient. Just a brief history, not going way back, but obviously the dot-com bomb blew up our market. Then we had the global financial crisis where everyone literally lost their houses and equity. We don't have that happening. We had a couple recessions. We had a global pandemic where we had 9% inflation and people literally were at home and dying of a virus. And now we've been on recession watch for a couple years since the brief recession we had during the pandemic. We have nested equity The top 30% of income earners spend 50%. Rates are high, but people, are saving again. And then they're still going to buy stuff. They're still going to eat. They're still going to go out and buy things. Maybe we decide we don't want to buy stuff that's more expensive coming from this nation or that nation. And people have that choice. So these tax cuts are the latest worry wart that's part of, this bill that's being passed and headed to the Senate. And so the extension of the 2017 Trump era one tax cuts are being given a little bit of a jolt, right? If you're in the service industry, no tax on your overtime or tip income. Therefore, that means more money. That's going to cause more inflation, but that causes more growth in the economy. So which one is it? We go into recession, inflation, stagflation. Man, no one knows, right? But so far, so good-ish, right? It's not as bad as feared. Man, these people are so fraidy cats everywhere. Like, all you can do is control what's in front of you, and let's keep rocking. Tell these consumers, let's get back to that story we sold in 22, date the rate, marry the house, dump the rent, we'll refi you later, which we just did last month when rates got down super low. That'll happen again. So just keep grinding. So we're going to take a look at that budget bill and it passing. And, it's funny why I have this attitude is because I don't watch the news. Like, I just don't watch the news. I don't watch people tugging on my emotional intelligence. I read data. I read reports, and I just filter it through my own brain. And, it's crazy. You look at these sentiment reports, based on your political affiliation, you're extremely bearish or you're extremely bullish, but now maybe less bullish because, it's just like how much soft data sentiment can people just be banging on you over and over, like tariffs, recession, you suck, we suck, we're spending too much. And you start to believe it. And then, this week was beautiful. Like, rates aren't that bad. People are buying houses, the 7Ds, deployment, thank you. Honoring those that have fallen, deployment, diamonds, diapers, debt, divorce. I like to joke, debt again, but you can't say it 2 times. Then you've got downsizing, you got death. People have this stuff happen all the time. You got to get on the phone and tell people, go buy a house. There's some great deals out there. There's more choices than there's been in quite some time. And if you don't snatch it up, someone else is going to the second rates go down. Anyway, now, Bill Pulte spoke at the MBA conference last week, and he was really fascinating. A guy that's part of the family that started Pulte Homes, a business owner treating Fannie and Freddie as their regulator, the head of FHFA. Sorry, this is my Chinese food from earlier. I ate half, and here at 11 o'clock at night, I am going to eat some more. By the way, I came back from New York, like weighing the least I've weighed in. I lost 21 pounds in like the last 15 months. I don't know how I did, but Bill Pulte said they saved $97 million just looking at things and saying, yeah, do this, do that. Remember the Chinese drywall thing we had like 10 years ago? There's still regulation on the books that's costing us money. And he just said, hey, we're done with that. Boom. So they're saving money. Yes, $97 million is a drop in the bucket. It's still $97 million. Think about the dude that spent $10,000 on 2 pizzas. It's now $1.15 billion. You never know this compounding effect of saving money. And anyway, I liked having Bill Pulte speak. He was a great speaker. So kudos to NBA for everything they did. 75 IPOs have been issued year to date. That's up 33% versus this time last year. Now, the deal sizes are smaller, but there is a flow of money. We do have some housing news I just want to get to you. Existing home sales, 4 million home sales annual rate. That's with a little drop with a soft April because of higher rates. So are we at a floor? I don't know. Are rates at a peak for the year? I don't know that either. But they're a big driver. Yes, insurance and taxes and all these other things matter, but rates are the big driver. So with 700,000 to 800,000 new homes built every year, we're on a 4.7, 4.8 million homes turning over in a year. That's a healthy year. That's a lot of business. I read some data that 80% of Q1 business was purchase business. That means originators are winning. Originators in the community are getting the bulk of the business. There's not a huge uptick in refinance business where the servicers tend to do better. And so that's great. There's purchase business out there. You got to go find it. Jobless claims, not so bad, 227,000, but the continuing claims up again to 1.9 million. That means if you lose a job, it's harder to find a new one. That's softening in labor. So, watch that 2-year Treasury. It's bumping up at 4% against this 200-day moving average. It could dip back down. And if that happens, we could, see some, money sell off in the stock market, flow into bonds. What would make that happen going into the weekend? We had a nice run up. The stock market, if you look at your 401k, after Liberation Day, you're freaking out. Now it's all back. So you feel wealthy again? Or are you scared? I don't know. But everything we lost in the stock market since that day has come back. So there could be some profit taking tomorrow, right? I'm not a financial advisor, not responsible for your losses, only your profits. Next week, next Wednesday, Nvidia, they are going to report earnings. You ever hear of buy on the rumors, sell on the news? Everyone might think they're going to crush earnings. They've got a 2-year backlog and people buy the stock up into that day and then it hits and you would think, oh, it's going to go up from here because they crush earnings. Sell on the news. So if you see money start to exit the stock market next week, taking some profit after this nice little run up, might flow its way into bonds. Have a little brief time to lock some loans next Thursday and Friday. So keep your eyes open for that. Have a wonderful weekend. And don't forget, it is Memorial Day. Cheers.
You've been listening to KP Talks Dollars and Cents, a top-rated show for those who want to learn about the economy and mortgage environment. Tune in each week for more episodes, and please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Kevin Perenio does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through KP Talks Dollars and Cents. The information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. For more info, follow KP Talks Dollars and Cents on all of our social channels.